Okay, take out your number 2 pencils. We're going to have a pop quiz. That's what every professor wants to do when they're in a class at Stanford, and you know it. So I'm going to start with this quiz. What do you see? They're very good. You're on your way to medical school. Back. Very good. You're supposed to say, that's me. So here's the thing, is when we confront people with images of their face, the first thing they say, oh, that's me. It's not just a body part, right? It's our identity. And that's what makes the face so interesting to me. Our face is our calling card. It's how we distinguish ourselves from the 7 billion other people on this planet. It's also the means by which we connect to the world around us. It's our advertisement for health and vitality. And it's also a measure of our life history. This is my dad. So Ralph Waldo Emerson said the following: a man finds room in the few square inches of his face for the traits of all of his ancestors, for the expression of all of his histories and his wants. I think about that sentence, the traits of all of his ancestors, and it particularly resonates with me because of the following. Over the last few years, scientists have been able to take the fossil record, and with computer modeling, they've succeeded in generating images of what early hominins looked like. So let's meet the grandparents. So here you see about 7 million years ago, as our diet changed, our jaws started to shrink, our brows receded, and if you ask me, we look a lot better for it. Our eyes separated, allowing the nasal bridge to come out. And probably the most important thing is our brains grew. And because they grew, the container holding our brains had to grow as well. And this gave us rather prominent foreheads compared to our earlier ancestors. And if you think about this last idea, the brains growing and the forehead changing its shape, if you think about it in the context of a kind of pseudoscience called physiognomy, which happened to take hold in about the 1800s, you can see that this area of pseudoscience focused on how the face could be used as a way to understand the moral fiber or the intellect of an individual solely by looking at the facial features. So for Victorians that wanted to be able to assess their fellow citizens, you had these handy-dandy charts so that you could look at your friend or relative and decide what aspect of their personality was, or what aspect of their moral fiber was reflected in their face. And here's a zoom in. And the reason I want to focus on this part is because you see that they look at intelligence and the prominent forehead versus the other extreme. So simply by looking at the face, these physiognomists thought they could predict whether the perfect person's moral character fell in line with their perfect face. Now, there was another person at the time. Well, I should say, first of all, that this physiognomy, this concept may be dead, and it's a good thing because it's impossible to pronounce it. But, but the basic idea, the belief that one could use physical appearance to predict moral fiber still exists. This is a prejudice that still exists today. So now back to what I was going to say. This gentleman ignored the quacks in the 1870s. And while the physiognomists were out measuring the length of the left ear, Charles Darwin was publishing his 3rd book. It's here. It's called The Expression of Emotion in Man and Animals. And here's where I want to just make a statement. These pseudosciences they are particularly dangerous because they're oftentimes built on a kernel of scientific truth. So while Darwin was working on this book, his tenet was very simple, that man and animals use their face in the same way to project the same emotions. And I'll give you an example. This is an illustration from his book. Can you guess what this is depicting? What do you think it is? Horror, right. He called it terror-stricken. And is there any doubt in your mind that each of these creatures is experiencing something horrifying? The range of emotions that the face could exhibit were really remarkable. And the fact that it was so conserved makes you really think about it. If the face of a man and the face of an animal could be used to predict the same emotional status, then somehow there must be a similar mechanism underlying it, right? So the musculature and the skeleton on which the face is formed must be shared as well. Now, Charles Darwin didn't know about this, but nowadays we do. When we look at ourselves at our very earliest stage of development, we share a common blueprint among animals. I'll give you an example. This is the embryonic face. And what you can't tell from this picture, and even somebody who's an expert would have a difficult time, is whether the offspring from this picture is going to have a snout or a pout, right? It's really remarkable. But now we know there's strong evidence that says that the genes that are responsible for building the face are shared among man and animals alike. This, I think, really shows you how important Charles Darwin's thoughts were. Now, obviously, the face is also used to express emotions that are meant to attract the opposite sex. I think you can guess what she's thinking. Now, maybe a bird like the bowerbird doesn't have the same bedroom eyes, but what the male does is he contracts one pupil and alternates to, you notice that? It's rather mesmerizing when you stare at that. So they use their face to attract members of the opposite sex. Here's something else Charles Darwin said. He said the welfare of mankind depends on the expression and recognition of emotion. That is a very strong statement. But if you don't believe Charles Darwin, all you have to do is look at a mother and how she interacts with her infant. We spend an enormous amount of time teaching infants how to read facial expressions. And the ability to do that is elemental for the fabric of our society, because we know the children who have difficulty in doing this are oftentimes later diagnosed with conditions like autism. Now, I don't know if you heard, but in recent years, work has been done here at Stanford, and it's a platform built on the Google Glass that addresses this difficulty in recognizing emotion. And this is called the Autism Glass Project. And I think it's really a cool idea about how to help children and adults with autism spectrum disorder be able to read social cues. Sometimes the face isn't assembled just right. And this is no surprise when you start looking at how the development of the human face has to occur. These buds of tissue grow out from around the oral cavity, and they have to come together and fuse in an absolutely precise way in order to form the perfect face. And anything that interrupts the rate or the progression of that fusion process can result in facial clefting. This can be devastating for parents, but thankfully, this can be easily corrected by surgery nowadays. Not all facial malformations can be answered by surgery. I want to introduce you in these last minutes to a friend of mine. His name is James Partridge. And in this picture, he was 18 years old, headed off to Oxford, life's big adventure about ready to start. And on the way there, he was involved in a car crash. The car caught fire, and he escaped with his life, but just. He spent 5 years undergoing reconstructive surgeries in an attempt to try to put his face back together. But after 5 years, he said, this is no longer a medical issue. This is an emotional and a social issue. I had to learn how to walk down the street. James learned how to cope with people staring, looking away, being at a loss for words, and he founded an organization in the UK called Changing Faces. And Changing Faces helps people cope with their differences, and it also lobbies on behalf of individuals who are suffering inequities because of their appearance. I've spent decades scrutinizing the face, and I've come to a very simple definition of what defines a perfect face. And I absolutely assure you it has nothing to do with the slope of your forehead. A perfect face is defined by the individual who has suffered and has come out of the depths. A perfect face does not just happen. It is created when you show compassion and in love. Just let you listen to this little bit of music. Much.